Domain and range are concepts that students often find to be difficult, and we're going to cover them very quickly here, so I hope you get some sort of gist of it. At the very least, actually having met this before will help you with your later courses. So the domain of a function is basically the set of input values for the function. Those are the x values. Think about when you draw a graph. Normally you have some x values and you substitute them into the function and get the corresponding y values. So those input values, those initial x values, give you the domain of the function. The range is the set of output values. That's the y values. So the domain is read from the x-axis and the range is read from the y-axis. So we want to state the domain and range for each of the following functions. So if we look at the arrows, again, we know that that line's just going to go off to infinity like this. So there's never going to be any part of the x-axis that doesn't have some line above it. And therefore, every single real value is an input value. And we write that as x is a real. So that's our domain. X is a real. In this particular example, and the way I always look at range is I always think that I always think of being in a glass elevator and going up the y-axis. And when you look out, do you see the graph? And everywhere you do see the graph, either looking that way or that way, you're in the range of the function. So if you think about this, anywhere you are in the elevator going off to infinity and down there, you're always going to look across and see some line. And therefore for this one, the range is y is all reals. Again with this, the arrow indicates it goes off to infinity, so there'll always be part of the x-axis where you've got graph either above or below. So the domain for this one is x is a real. The range, however, if you think about being in the glass elevator, here you're not seeing any curve. And you don't actually see any curve until you get to here, -5, and then you'll always see the curve from -5 upwards. So we would write y is a real, but y is greater than or equal to -5. So this one has a restricted domain, and we can see that the graph only exists from there to there. So for that we will write x is a real. This is the domain. X is a real. X is greater than or equal to -2 and less than or equal to 1. Note that those are filled in circles. If you get a blank circle, it's just a less than and not a less than or equal to. If we look at the range, you don't see any graph until you get to there, and then you see it up to there, and then you stop seeing it again above. So the range is y is a real, and y is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 4. So we only see it in this little bit here between 0 and 4. Again, we have a restricted domain, which seems to go from -4 up to 8. So our domain would be x is a real. X is greater than or equal to -4, less than or equal to 8. Again, if those have been blank circles, we would just have a less than. Now the range, where do we see it going upwards on the y-axis? We see it from here, which is at -3 up to 15. So our range is y is a real, and y is greater than or equal to -3 and less than or equal to 15.